Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Big Bros Podcast, episode number 8. My name is Jeremy. I'm joined by my lovely co-host and good mate, Ilan. Ilan, how are you today, mate?
Splendid. I'm very good, Jeremy. It's a nice Saturday night. We've got the wines for those watching. We've got some nice glasses of red beside us. So, yeah, feeling pretty good.
Just taking the edge off it, hey?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's lovely. Good little touch. Well, I mean, you've worked hard during the week, so there's no harm in indulging a nice glass of red. So
I think that. What is it? Is it a Shiraz or something?
I think it's a Shiraz from the Mornington Peninsula.
Oh,
So
excellent. What year?
I think it's only a 2017, so
Oh, only. Okay, well.
nothing too fancy, but, got to support the local. So Mornington Peninsula, great part of the world. God's country down there, I reckon. So let's get stuck into it and let's get stuck into this episode.
Before we start, though, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and rate the show 5 stars. Let's go.
Thank you. Let's do it. So today we're talking about why we shouldn't take things so personally in life, because in relationships, in job occupations, in whatever we come across in life, people might say some things to us that we might not really like to hear. We've all been there. We've all heard it. So let's talk about why we shouldn't take things so personally. So Ilan, why do you think, first and foremost, we shouldn't take things so personally?
Because there's so many things to worry about in the world, right? If you take every criticism that someone says about you, it can take a huge kind of toll on you, don't you reckon?
Can take a toll on you. And if it takes a toll on you once, it's only going to take a toll on you the second time, and it's just going to keep compounding.
I think so too. And don't you reckon as well, when you do think that everything's a personal attack, you tend to get into this mind frame that it's a reflection of your self-worth?
Yeah, and you start to become real victim-y, thinking it's all about me, when in actual fact, it might not be.
So a lot of our listeners might also ask, like, okay, why have we decided to pick a topic like not taking things so personally? And my reasoning for it is, when you're younger, you tend to take things more personally. And then as you grow a little bit older, you kind of have an understanding that some of the criticisms you might receive, you don't take those things as personally as you get older. But when you're younger, it's a bit more pertinent. What do you reckon?
Yeah, because you're starting to form your little connections with people, you're starting to form your cliques, you're starting to experience new novel experiences and do things for the first time. So you're going to come across different opinions, right? And it's because it's all fresh and it's all exciting. People might think, you're doing something a little bit out of the blue, or you're doing something a little bit different to what I might do something. So comments are going to be made. And as a little tacker, I certainly didn't know how to take some of the comments. Like, I'm a little bit of a softie at heart. And especially when you're younger, like, I think I could have taken things a little bit personally than what I must have, or I should have done so. So, I think you're much more prone to it in your earlier days.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, man, because honestly, I remember my first job. I was, fresh out of high school. I have no customer service skills.
Fresh out of high school, mate. Gee, you started a little bit late.
I was a little bit of a late bloomer. I was like the sort of kid that would justify not working because I just wanted to put all my eggs in the academics basket.
Was mum still cutting up your sandwiches
Of
in
course she
triangles
was.
as well?
Oh,
Taking the crusts off too?
No, but I'd be getting the lunch orders and stuff.
Oh, yeah, treating you well.
Exactly. But yeah, my first job, right? I remember any time I got any criticism for any sort of customer service skills. I was working in medical retail at the time, and I was just a nervous wreck. So anytime I received any criticism, I thought it was the end of the world.
Oh.
You said you were a softie. I reckon I take the cake. I was the sort of person, I would be vengeful. I would hate anyone that would criticize me to that extent. I thought it was the biggest reflection of my self-worth.
See, that's the difference between me and you. I think you would take it to heart, but then go real vengeful and be like, nah, bloody hell, I'm going to get back at this one and one up them. Me, I would just take it to heart and then fucking start crying. So
Oh, fair enough. No, I was an angry person, I reckon. And look, I think I still take things personally, but I think I've got a better awareness for it. But we'll talk about our tips and tricks and what kind of helps us not take things so personally now. But yeah, just back then, I was just... Look, it's never nice receiving criticism, especially when you think you've worked hard for something or you think you've done a specific job well, and then...
Well, if it's bad criticism, if it's like criticism that is pretty suitable, that's a different story, hey?
Nah, mate. I'll tell you something, right? Even let's bring it into the academic realm, or like university, school, whatever. You get a bad mark, right? But the criticism's good. And suppose you got like, let's say you're competing with your mates for who gets the best mark. And then they get a better mark, and let's say they get a 90, you get an 80, right? And then you just have really positive criticism. Hey, Ilan, you did this really well. You did this really well, but I think you just could improve on that.
Yeah.
I reckon you can still interpret that as a bit of a personal attack, because you'll focus on that 10%.
Oh, yeah. Yes and no. I think that's maturity, though. Maturity is realizing that that's not necessarily a bad thing, and it could actually be a good thing.
I reckon so. So when do you reckon you started to gain this awareness of like not taking things so personally? Well, did you have like a trigger point, or do you think it's just something that's evolved throughout your years as a young blossoming Jeremy?
I'll give you an example, right?
Let's hear it.
I was on my way to uni on Thursday last week, right? I'm on Waterdale Road on the way to La Trobe University, right? And I was in the left lane. Some bloke was in the right lane. I had my blinker on, trying to indicate in to turn right. Mind you, I was also in a bit of a rush. I'm always in a rush, mate, on the roads. Well, don't want to be next to me on the road at the best of times.
Lewis Hamilton over here. It's Lewis Hamilton.
Oh.
Jeremy Lewis Hamilton Tussia.
Don't say that. But yeah, so I was trying to indicate in, right? And the bloke next to me in his four-wheel drive Nissan car, he had the mindset that I was trying to get in front of him, when in actual fact I was just trying to get behind him. I was just trying to like wait for my spot nice and diplomatically, right? What he does is he eventually like speeds up a little bit. I get in behind him. Great. Happy days, yeah? We're approaching the traffic light, getting to the intersection. It goes amber, so a nice, the yellow color, right? So we're approaching and it goes yellow, and he enters the intersection, but then like directly stops so that like I couldn't get into the intersection, and he could just speed off then like as it was turning red. And I just thought to myself,
what a bloody hoon.
What an absolute bell end. Like, some people out there, like it's just a simple form of road rage, but some people out there will go out of their way to just be an absolute prick because, I mean, he probably thought I was trying to get in front of him, but just like going out of their way. And I know I'm digressing, but
it's a good example.
Bringing it back to the point, like taking it personally, like back in the day, I probably would have like raged, like flipped him the bird or something and just like felt shit about myself. But like as he stopped and I figured out what he was doing, and then he like zoomed off as the traffic light went red, I thought to myself, it's just funny. Like I honestly just grinned and I laughed and I just thought, like us humans, we can do some bloody funny things, and like I would never want to be that person. So like I didn't take it personally. I just laughed about it and just thought like, bloody hell, like some people are going out of their way to just be pricks.
I think you have to also laugh about it, because I think being on the roads is so emblematic of an environment where people just do take things so personally.
Oh, God, yeah.
The amount of times I've been tempted where there's some moron of a driver next to me cuts me off or something.
Yeah.
There is always that urge, that vengeful urge in me to just sacrifice my safety just to stick it, and then
Some
I think
people go to extreme lengths. Like
it's not worth it.
They will indicate into another lane, creep up by a side, wind down their
Have you seen those?
Not really wind down because you just click a button these days, but put their bloody windows down and stick their head and go, rah, 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 bloody hell, what are you bloody doing out there?
It's funny you mention it, because
in nice terms.
On my Instagram reels lately, I've just been seeing a lot of road rage incidents.
Yeah.
And my first thought is like...
Bit of brown cardigan action.
Yeah, that sort of thing. My first kind of instinctive response is, this is hilarious. Number two is like, a bit dangerous that someone's filming this unless it's on a dash cam.
Yeah.
And number three, I think, wow, these people, like, it really...
People are angry.
It strikes a nerve in them, right?
Oh, people get so angry.
And I think the point I'm trying to make here is sometimes... I think most of the time it's just not worth taking things personally, because at the end of the day, if you extrapolate on it, if you overreact, as we spoke about last week, tragedy is something that can occur at any second. The roads are an excellent example of where tragedy can occur. Accidents can happen. Taking things so personally can be a catalyst. You could do something stupid. You can end up in a car accident. So definitely, it's one of those environments where you got to be chill.
Yeah.
Focused but chill.
100%. Now, I don't think it's something I struggle with, but used to, yeah, I think so. Deep down, we all want to be, or at least I did, a little bit of a people pleaser, especially in your high school years. You want to be on everyone's good side. You want to like have a lot of friends. You want to, be impressive in certain ways. So I think being a bit of a people pleaser kind of goes hand in hand with taking things a little bit personally sometimes, because it's that whole notion of trying to not necessarily appease to others, but trying to relate to everyone. And therefore, if you get a little bit of criticism, you feel like you're not relating. So then you cop it and you take it to heart. But yeah, I think like going back to your question, I think I started not taking things too personally, probably like after school, like 19, 20, when you start to just like experience a few more things and get out into the big wide world and open up and meet different people. And you realize that bloody hell, like we're all actually pretty insignificant out there. The world's that big. I mean, the world keeps spinning. Like, no one cares if you dropped your ice cream and fell on the floor. Like, just get on with your day.
What if it's in your case, a mint ice cream? You'd be crying, mate.
It's only episode 8, and I think that reference has come up about 3 times. So.
It's great. Well, you know what? I was just thinking about it. You made a point that when you're in school, right, being a people pleaser can go hand in hand with that whole notion of taking things personally. And I think it does come back to also just being so hyper vigilant towards what other people think of you. If all you're doing and wanting is positive reactions, positive opinions of yourself from those around you, then you're always going to be incredibly sensitive and easily, what's the term? Upsettable. That's not a word, but you're easily triggered. And you can always expand the words.
Yeah.
And you might also think that, like, for example, if you get criticized for one thing, it's very easy to also be like, oh, if they think badly about me on this, does that mean they think poorly of me about X, Y, and Z?
Or entirely as a person.
And that's where you start ruminating. That's where you start thinking, that's where your self-worth comes in. That's where like, oh, is my self-worth not good enough based off this one comment? You see it in sporting environments as well, right? Where even in community sport, you could get criticized on the field, just irrespective of the sport you're playing. You'd be called an idiot, an imbecile, all the expletives in the world. And
plenty of them out there.
Yeah, definitely. It's a long list. It's a long list of a vocabulary. But at the end of the day, you can really, it's one of those environments, and I think, athletes aren't exempt from it, but they can receive a heap and a barrage of insults. And some are able to really just, water off a duck's back, right? Don't get that insulted by it. But even in that sort of kind of high intense environment, it just shows that it's so easy, and it is a skill to not take things so personally. I think it's one of those things that's a work in progress. You're just more sensitive and more vulnerable to taking things personally when you are younger.
Yeah, it's a great point you raised, bringing in athletes as well, because I think they're probably the best example of not taking things too personally, at least from what we see. I mean, you do see in the media that, like, occasionally there are times where a player might speak out about something, and like, when necessary, they speak out about things that should be spoken out about, like racism. So I don't think racism and stuff falls into this category, like, because that's an issue that should always be spoken about and should always be called out and stamped out. But we're talking more so about like little snarky comments on the sidelines, like, go get a haircut, like, bloody cut that mullet of yours, rah, 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 rah. Like, footy players, athletes in general, amazing at not taking that too personally. And like, yes, they probably have an element of training and like, talking to club psychologists to help them out and help them through it. And I mean, I'm not a footy player, so I don't really
If there's
know,
any footy players that are listening to this podcast, welcome to come on as well. We'd love to have a footy player.
Let us know your thoughts. But I think a lot of their growth with not taking things too personally comes from like observing those around them at the footy club, getting that guidance from those older than them, and being able to like talk about when things maybe do hurt them a little bit and they do take things too personally. And I think like being able to talk about it, if you do take something a bit personally, can actually allow you to get over that roadblock to improvement in how you do manage copping a few comments.
I think so. I think you got to be aware of it, number one. Number two, though, I've got a question. Do you reckon that not taking things personally is a good predictor of someone's personal success, whether it's in their relationships and their career, etc.? Because I reckon it is.
Yeah. I think you have to be able to not take things too personally if you want to achieve success, right? You're going to step on people's toes. You're going to have to make those 50-50 decisions, go down those different avenues. Some avenues might be more preferable to go down than others, but at the end of the day, sometimes you probably got to go with your head rather than your heart, especially when it comes to business and success and entrepreneurship. So you got to be prepared to step on people's toes, and you probably got to be prepared to, I don't know, but like not favor friendships occasionally if it is a business-based decision. It's kind of like a Big Brother house, isn't it?
It is. Well, it's funny. We had Sam on from Blitzbar a few weeks ago, and we were asking him, like, your friendships, have they taken a hit? Has your overall balance taken a hit? And he said, yeah, it kind of has to when you're establishing like a business. And he also mentioned the fact that you kind of just have to be really decisive in your everyday decisions. You can't overthink every single nook and cranny of what you do, because time is money. You're running on a clock, essentially, right? And something that I thought about after that episode is that it's very true. That's why I asked you that question. Do we reckon that not taking things personally goes hand in hand with success? I reckon it does. I reckon it has to be. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's also one of those things that no matter how self-aware you are, so if you think that you're the sort of person that does take things really personally, irrespective, I think having that awareness of why you're offended by a specific comment can also help you as well. Like
reflecting on why I took something personally.
Well, yeah, like I'm going to put you on the spot here, right? When have you ever felt, let's take girls for an example, relationships. Have you ever taken things personally?
Yeah, mate. Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. So, yeah, I think that was probably the first time. Oh, no. The first time where you take things personally and it actually like hits and like cuts deep. Because like in school, like, yeah, there are snarky comments here and there. But if you know that you don't resemble whatever that comment was, like, you might take offense to it, but you might not reflect on it and think, God, that cut deep. But I think with girls and like the first times I was going on dates, like after school, you start meeting people, meeting girls, going on different dates and copping rejection.
Well, you can take those things personally, right? And then
I think, yeah, and some comments as to why maybe they didn't want to see you again. Those are the things that you can definitely take personally.
All right, let's expand on that. First instinctive response there is probably, oh shit, I'm not good enough, right?
Yeah, well, you doubt whether you're good enough for them, and therefore you doubt whether you're good enough for someone else.
Correct. So that's where the whole thing. Then you take it a step further, right? And this is like where the hyper-analysis comes in, right? And you could also ask yourself, okay, well, is it to do with my self-worth, or is it to do with potentially the fact, let's just make an arbitrary example. Potentially they weren't interested in a relationship. Potentially they had an ex-partner that reaches out to them. Potentially they thought they wanted a relationship, but turns out they don't. It could be a host of factors that may have nothing to do with you. But you don't see it at the time as that. You think it's all about you. So that's the thing. When we take things personally, you said at the very start of this episode, so you get trapped in your own head. You feel like a victim. You feel like a victim of circumstance, right?
Yeah, you're always thinking, why me? Why was it that I couldn't provide in this circumstance? Did I say something that I shouldn't have said on the date? Did I not do something that I should have done? So instantly, like, those are the things you're obviously going to start reflecting on, hey? And I certainly did, especially in those earlier days of dating. And you just, you feel like there are times where you just can't land something. And yeah, you go into a little bit of a rut and you think, far out, like, what am I doing that's wrong? Like, am I really that much of a incompetent person, or am I really like not as boisterous enough, not as outgoing enough, not as, I don't know, funny? Like, it's very easy. It's very, very easy to just cop that and think it's all you. But you led us into a really nice point there where you said you just don't know like what's going on with them. Like there's always two sides of the coin, and it might be that they actually really did enjoy the time with you, the date with you, but something's come up.
Maybe they're going away in a month. They don't want to commit to anything.
Yeah,
they don't want to tell you.
Maybe,
like, you
maybe
never
they're
know.
going on exchange in America and they don't want to make any commitments. But yeah, I think putting yourself out there and essentially like practicing and seeing how you go with different people in different circles allows you to really like nut this belief out of your head and think, you know what, like it's not me. Like I get along with people. And not to say that it's them, but at the fact of the matter is, like in life, we just don't click with some people sometimes, or if we think we do click with them, they might think otherwise, and that's totally okay. And that only comes with practice. At least for me, it only did.
No, it's fair enough. Look, I think the whole understanding of where someone makes a comment and you take it personally and it offends you. Think about the times you've been in an argument with a friend, family member, right? They say something that really hurts you. It cuts deep. Then you resolve things with them and they explain why they said what they said. They said maybe they had a stressful day, blah, 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 blah. You might still be offended by the comment, but that understanding of where they came from, their own circumstances. They could have had a shit day at work. They could have had an argument with blah, blah, blah. They could have, been cut off in traffic, because that tends to piss me off quite a bit. That
it's
sort
the
of
butterfly effect of life, isn't it?
Perfect. So yeah, butterfly effect. There's been a culmination of events that entire day that's led to this person being in a very angering mood. Something simple could have set them off, and then you were the recipient of their bad mood, and you're automatically thinking, shit, that's a reflection of me, when in actual fact you may have said something, you may have been their emotional punching bag, and then you soon realize that, hey, it actually has nothing to do with me, has everything to do with their circumstance.
What's the saying? It's like you're a bunny in the headlights or something.
Deer in headlights.
Deer in the headlights.
I don't know if that applies in this context.
Well, I think it does, because it's like you just happen to be that deer there on that road, and that big and that.
Phone? Let me find what it means. Well, keep speaking.
It's like, you were that deer there on the road, and the car was just coming at you, and I think I've stuffed up. I think it's more so when you're like a bit embarrassed, or you're kind of like caught out in the situation, but take it as if you were about to get hit by that car. I think it can apply to that situation.
I don't know if you've turned the definition all around, but it means to be so frightened or surprised that you cannot move or think. Each time they asked him a question, he was like a deer caught in the headlights.
Scrap whatever I just said then, hey?
No, but I like it. I think it's the wines. I think the 3 sips of your red wine's got into you.
Tolerance has gone down the drain, but yeah, no. So, you bring a good point, and yeah, I think it's just a thing that we just need to like really be present with, like have some presence and know that it's all right. Take a back step. They've made a comment. Shit might be going on in their life. Shit might have just culminated into this. Don't take it personally. And like, look, it's also not to say that, you should just be a punching bag and cop stuff from people, because you know what? Like, just because they've had a shit day doesn't give them a right of way to then say some nasty things to you. You know what I mean? Part of our self-worth is not copying that stuff.
Standing up for yourself.
So, it doesn't give someone a right to just go out their way and like call you bloody nasty comments. But yeah.
I think so, yeah. I don't think... It's also the whole mental health aspect of it, right? So the less you take things personally, the benefits of not taking things so personally is that you're just not as stressed out by it. You're not as upset. You're just not going to have your mental energy occupied by whatever has occurred, right?
Oh, yeah. God, yeah. Because I know that for me, back in the day, especially like in school, someone says something to you, whether it be a teacher or a fellow student, geez, like that comment can stick with you the whole day. And then it can like, I certainly felt a sense of anxiety leading up to like future interactions with people or future moments or future interactions with the person that might have said it, being like, geez, like, are they going to hold like that same opinion of me? Is that what they really think? And more often than not, chances are your next interaction with that person that might have said that comment would be a completely positive interaction. Nothing that was brought up or said in the past is brought up again. And you walk away feeling like, okay, it was just a comment at the end of the day, and they might not think that of me.
Exactly. They probably even forgot the fact that they said that comment. It
Mm.
probably was such a blasé thing for them that it's not even occupying their own mental energy as much as it is for you. So that begs the question, why should you spend any more time than required? Try and make the effort of letting, water off a duck's back, right?
Yeah.
Don't let it affect you, or don't at least try, because it's hard. We're humans. We're gonna be concerned with what other people think of us. The thing is, even last night I was with a few of my mates. They were asking me, what are we recording an episode about? And I said, the whole notion of not taking things so personally. They asked me, how come that episode? So I explained that, when you're younger, you have a tendency to take things very personally. As you get older, you don't as much for yada, 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 for various reasons. And they said to me, at least my best mate said to me, shout out to Gabe Zaffron, he said, Ilan, you take everything so personally. And ironically, I felt like I was going to take that comment personally, but I couldn't prove his point right, just for the sake of being vengeful. And I said, yeah, look, I reckon I do, but not to the same extent that I used to. And
it's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a work, and that's the thing. Like anything in life, you see all these influencers on Instagram that preach such crap, and you're automatically of the opinion that they have their life sorted, whether it's their fitness, their diet, whatever they do, and you just automatically think, whatever they're posting on social media must be an exemplar version of reality, But the reality is everyone's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I think the reality of the situation is you get better at certain things, you still have things to improve on, and then you can help others or explain your perspective of what has helped you overcome certain things.
Exactly. And you know what? Like we did say, it's a work in progress for all of us. We still do occasionally think, oh God, like that comment, that actually like cut deep. That might have hit an insecurity of ours. So I think it's also okay to just voice that. Like say to that person, like, God, like, I actually got a bit hurt by that comment, or what do you mean by that? Because, that actually didn't really sit well with me. And if chances are you open up and like speak it and talk it out with that person, they might give you like a really good answer and say something from their perspective that they felt, and you might reach a really nice, lovely conclusion to the situation and walk away from it with something to maybe think about or something to work on. Because I mean, like, we read all these personal development books, we listen to all these podcasts about how we can be better people. Chances are you've got really good mates in front of you that can just be that person and tell you that then and there as well.
100%. I think also the fact is, if you explain to someone that their comment made you feel a certain way, they can't deny that. The way you feel is the way you feel.
Yeah.
It's a subjective thing. All they can do is kind of ask you, well, why did my comment strike such a nerve with you? And then offers you the opportunity to explain what was said, why it struck that nerve, and then there's a greater understanding. You're building your communication skills through it as well. So I think it's an excellent point you raised there, which is just explaining how that certain comment that made you feel like shit, explaining it, contextualizing the reasons for it.
Yeah.
That can go such a long way. I think that's a good tip in and of itself. I think just being aware is really, really, really helpful. And yeah, like, I'm just thinking, like, even if you do get screamed at, I remember, like, again, like, I would get not screamed at, but let's say get criticized, like my first job, right?
Yeah.
I would feel so crap about it. And I think there was maybe one point I must have made a mistake on something, and someone who was a bit more senior than me, wasn't my manager per se, but it was just someone I was working with at the time. They were very critical of it, but in a rude way, right? And I felt very, very shit about it. And I think I was just maybe stressed that day. But I called them out on it and I said, look, I understand you want me to do this and this way. You can communicate that without bringing me down as a person.
Mm.
So I think that ties into what you said. You still stick up for yourself. You explain to them why you took it so personally. Then the third thing I kind of did was I wanted to kind of step outside of my shoes. That person was overseeing what I was doing. They were probably stressed. You know, there was some rookie that they had to oversee, make sure that they don't make any mistakes whilst concentrating on their own work. And that ability to just become a bit more empathetic of the other person and why they said that comment again, it's going to go a massive long way in just resolving that sort of those feelings of turmoil.
Yeah, exactly. And especially in a workplace where there's a lot of hustle and bustle. Because I know me personally, I worked in a chicken shop for 5 years from the age of 15 onwards. And God, you really cop some comments, you know, in the heat of the moment there, especially when you're dealing with people. But like with that being said, like I feel like tone is also has such a big element to it. Like you can say something to someone and it could be taken as like a personal comment, but if your tone is quite snarky and, you know, uptight in a certain way versus, you know, nice and calm and relaxed, it can be interpreted in a whole new way, right? So I think we just need to be a little bit careful about how we are with our tone with people as well, because like there are times where we want to like tell people how it is or that they might have done something, you know, that wasn't favorable. But saying it in a nice, diplomatic, calm way really goes a long way versus being so in your face and direct about it, I think. So obviously easy said than done. We all get caught in the heat of the moment, but it's something that I've tried to really be mindful about.
I've got a question for you. Let's say two people are having an argument. One person lashes out and the other person, you know, they have every reason to respond back in a very abrasive and angry tone, but they're very calm about it.
Oh, doesn't it just piss the person off even
It pisses them off, but as a bystander, you see that, and then your automatic inclination is, wow, first of all, that person who is speaking with a very good tone isn't screaming back, is, wow, they are, first of all, very self-restrained, lots of self-discipline, and relaxed and composed. Qualities that you respect in someone. Yeah. Whereas you look at and perceive that person who's screaming and you're automatically thinking, they're a loon, they're crazy, they can't control themselves.
Exactly.
They're a slave to their impulses, to their emotions. I think that's just what your brain does subconsciously. I think that's where the power of, as you just said, comes in, of just being cool, calm and composed, but really emphasizing your tone of voice.
Yeah, and what do they do then? The person that's like really angry and yelling and saying all these nasty comments to the person that's really cool, calm and collected, you often see that really crazy person then just walks away and turns their back on the situation because they can't just hack talking to someone or discussing something that's just, you know, in a calm, diplomatic tone. So they turn their back on the situation. So it has that element of killing them with kindness and killing them with just calmness. And it's just a really fascinating thing. So, geez, if I just...
Kill him with kindness.
Kill him with kindness. Who sang that song? Kill him with kindness.
You're the pop artist,
I don't know. Not pop. God, I don't listen to pop
star.
It's been a while since that. But anyways,
don't take things so personally, Jeremy.
Don't take things so personally. That's it. So, Ilan, it begs the question, like, when we have taken things so personally, right? And we've suggested some really nice way that we did overcome it. But then also, like, what do you think the best tip moving forward is for someone that really does feel like they are taking something quite personally, and you know they've tried to walk away from a situation, or they're hearing our words saying like it's so easy to just take a breath and realize that person might be coming from a difficult situation. You know what? They've tried that. They've also tried to just be calm in the situation, but they feel like they're not getting anywhere. They still feel like that thought of what the person's saying is really eating them up inside, and they just really can't get that out of their head. What do you think the best tip is for them moving forward?
Have they spoken to the person?
Well, that's a good question.
Because speaking to them probably does go a long way if you have that availability to. As we said earlier, just communicating to them, asking them questions. Ask them, why did you react like that? Was there anything going on, well, maybe not asking them what's going on with you personally, but you edge to that. You really ask them like, hey, you really, really, really upset me. I don't understand why you had to phrase it, why you had to make that certain comment.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm your family member. I'm your friend. I love you. I respect you. And I would expect that you love and respect me enough that you wouldn't say the hurtful things that you have, right? Yeah. And as we said earlier, they might come out and say, look, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said what I said. I had an awful day at work.
Perfect scenario though, like ideal situation that's their reaction. Because I know just me personally and what I experienced in school, especially in that year 9 phase that I did speak about, those couple episodes ago. God, like it's so easy to just really like say, just go up to them and like talk it out with them and be calm and ask them why they said that thing. But I know with me, like in those situations, often the person will just come at you again and just repeat it again and make you feel even more like shit. So, and then you come home and you talk to your parents about it, or you talk to the teacher and they just say, ignore it. It's so easier said than done, isn't it, at that age?
It is, but I also think it's unavoidable, right? Like you can't avoid those feelings. You got to process it somehow.
Yeah.
Potentially journaling it, getting out of your mind into your body, right? Mindfulness goes a long way.
And maybe it comes back again to just spending that time around the people that are closest to you, confiding in those that are closest to you.
Good quality friends, mate. Good
quality friends. Yeah, that realization that these people are low quality. I'm not getting anywhere with them. And I wouldn't want to get anywhere with them if this is how they're treating me.
Well, that's the thing, right? So if you're asking me what I would do, if I have I've always been the person that if someone upsets me, like whether it's the same day or some time has elapsed, I'll always try to approach them because for me, that's the only recipe that works. If I haven't had the ability to speak to them, honestly, journaling is a huge one. You just writing out, putting your abstract thoughts onto paper is a form of venting, really. But it's a really healthy way because you're getting your body involved in a way. You're getting your like fine motor skills, your fingers, you're writing things out. That does help a lot. Sleeping on it as well, right? Sleeping on it, you wake up, a new day may provide a new perspective.
Yeah,
and I think it comes with maturity.
Hopefully, yeah.
Because the awareness I have now, I didn't have when I was 15, 16 years old.
God, no.
I would tell my 15, 16-year-old self not to be so harsh on themselves. So that's personally what I would tell maybe Ilan when they were 15, 16. Also not to be so vengeful.
Yeah.
It eats you up. There's no point.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what I would tell my 15-year-old self back then is, stick with those closest to you. Spend time around the ones that matter, the ones that are making these snarly comments, and really you're just not getting anywhere with them, and it's hitting personal. It's just not worth it. So just really like confide in those around you. So, because I mean, like I'm talking to me who was a sensitive little boy back then.
I reckon you and I were both sensitive, but the way we kind of reacted was a bit different. Like I'd be like sensitive, then
you'd be vengeful. I'd have a cry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, on that note, if anyone has anything to add, we would love to hear from you. Let us know what you think about any of the points raised. Okay. And rate that show 5 stars if you have enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and follow for more. And we can't wait to see you on the next one.
See you guys.